Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to talk about Nebari, how to develop it, why it matters. Let's get started. Alright guys, so before we start, let me ask you something. How many of you have come across a bonsai that looked like it was floating? I know I have, and it doesn't look very good, right? No. One reason why this happens is because the bonsai doesn't have a big enough root flare, also known as Nebari. So Nebari is really important for the overall health of your bonsai as well as its aesthetics. Now, you may be thinking, why does this matter? Well, there's two reasons why it's important. One, because if you imagine yourself as an artist and you have your bonsai as a canvas, well, Nebari acts like the frame of the painting, anchoring the design. Without it, the tree will appear top-heavy and out of balance. And no, too, in nature, developing a strong root flare is a sign of a mature tree. So by having a nice root flare, it symbolizes that your tree has lived a long life. Now, the larger the root flare, the older the tree appears to be. Alright, so now that we understand why Nebari is important, let's talk about how to grow it. There's only two primary techniques that you're going to use to develop a large root flare. One is regular root pruning when you're repotting, and the other is air layering, which we'll also call the tourniquet method. Now, these two methods work really well by themselves, but if you combine them together, you're going to see a lot faster results. So the first method is regular root pruning, and this is what I do whenever I'm repotting my bonsai. So when repotting your bonsai, you want to take a look at the root system and find all the roots that are growing thick and downward. These are the roots that you're going to trim off. You want to make sure that you don't cut them too short though. Leave about 1/4 inch from the root to prevent damaging the tree. Once you've identified the roots that you want to trim away, use sharp pruners or a knife, disinfect it, and then cut away those roots. Now, after you've removed those downward growing roots, you want to find the roots that are circling the bottom of the pot, and you're going to fan them out as wide as possible. By doing this, it's going to force the roots to grow outward, which eventually will lead to a larger root flare. Now, over time, you'll continue to do this every couple years when you re-repotting, and you'll eventually get the desired effect. But keep in mind, this method works best with broadleaf evergreen trees. Conifers, on the other hand, will take a lot longer to see results. The best time to do this is going to be at the end of winter to early spring. This is when trees are actively growing and they can recover from stress much faster. The next method is going to be air layering or the tourniquet method. This method is a little more involved, but it definitely works. So the goal of this method is to stop the flow of nutrients to the roots while the tree is growing. By doing this, you're going to force new roots to grow just above the tourniquet. Now, the main root below the tourniquet will continue to thicken, which will act as the foundation for the root flare. So the way you do this is by wrapping tightly with wire around the base of the trunk. You want to wrap it tight enough to where it stops the flow of nutrients, but not so tight that it cuts into the trunk. After about 4 to 6 weeks, you'll begin to see new roots emerge above the wire. Once they reach about 1 inch in length, you can bury them in soil and they should develop into feeder roots. After several months, you can repeat the process on the opposite side of the tree to promote wider, stronger root development. This method works great with most broadleaf trees, but keep in mind, it doesn't work as well with conifers. Also, you never want to apply the tourniquet method to the trunk of the tree because you can damage the vascular tissue and kill the tree. Always apply it to the roots. Now, the last method I want to share with you is called the board technique, also known as Ebihara style. This is a really cool method because it's simple to do and it works great for younger trees. The way this works is that you strap the tree to a flat board or tile, which restricts the vertical root growth and forces the roots to spread outward. This eventually leads to a flat, pancake-style Nebari. What's nice about this method is that you can purchase trees that already have been grafted onto a flat slab of wood. Or you can go out into the forest, find a nice branch that has been covered in moss. Take a small section of that branch, bury it in soil, and water it until it sprouts roots. Then you can transplant that rooted branch onto a board and develop the root flare. I'm currently trying this method out myself, so stay tuned and you'll see some updates on how it's progressing. This technique is excellent for young trees or for trees that are in the nursery. Now, depending on the type of tree that you have, you may need to use one of these methods over the other. For example, if you have broadleaf trees that are growing in a pot, then it's easy to simply remove the pot and work on the root flare. However, if you have a large mature tree that's planted in the ground, then it might be difficult to access the root flare. For these types of situations, you can dig a trench around the tree, apply the tourniquet method to the roots, and then fill in the trench. Just make sure that you keep the soil slightly moist until the roots sprout above the tourniquet. Once you see new roots, you can apply the same technique on the opposite side of the tree. Keep in mind, though, that this method will slow down the development of the root flare because you're not working directly on the root ball. Now, once you've developed a healthy root flare, it's important to protect it. If you have a tree in a pot, make sure that you drill several drainage holes in the bottom of the pot. This will allow excess water to escape and prevent the roots from becoming waterlogged. Also, keep in mind that not all bonsai are meant to have a large root flare. For example, some species of conifers naturally have a small root flare, so it wouldn't make sense to try and force them to have a larger one. Instead, you should focus on maintaining the tree's natural appearance. Alright guys, I hope that this video was helpful and maybe even inspiring to you. Developing a root flare takes time and patience, but the end result is definitely worth it. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.